All right. What's going on, everybody? I was at Club Excess last night, and I got home at 5, and I woke up at 6, and I was going to do a talk about trading, and then I said, you know what? I'm not doing it. I said I'm going to talk about life instead, and we're going to talk about the human condition. All right, so my name is Anand. I go by the name of Sangluchi, and I suffer from a disease. Now, they don't really have a scientific term for this disease, but we all suffer from it too. It is the human condition, and my abilities can only take me so far with constant distraction and weak emotions clouding my behavioral decision-making. And I'm not just talking about trading, right? I'm talking about life in general. So for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to paint you a little picture about how jacked in the head we all really are. And maybe you're not jacked in the head. If you're not, you'll at least enjoy these stories. So earlier this week, I was long Goldman Sachs and Netflix. I don't know if you guys trade these stocks, but they went to the moon. I had maybe like $100,000 worth of calls, and I had maybe $700,000 of short put risk on. And I only had maybe $100,000 cash at my prop account. So obviously my broker was calling me left and right. What the hell are you doing? We're going to close down this account. And in my head, I'm like, North Korea could shoot a missile tomorrow, and these puts would still expire worthless. You should ask me to sell more of this. And at the same time, right, I have so much stuff going on. They're forcing me out of this position. And I had promised my mother that I was going to take her to lunch. It was her birthday. So I'm in the car, texting and driving, right? And I'm looking at Goldman Sachs. I'm looking at Netflix every single second. And literally, at the same time, I get a text from my other business partner who trades cryptocurrency. I don't know if you guys trade Bitcoin or any of this stuff, right? He tells me to buy 25,000 of an ICO that just came out called Substratum. I don't know what the hell this company does, right? Meanwhile, I'm driving, right? I'm driving, I'm looking at Goldman Sachs, I'm talking to my mother. I'm not paying any attention to the road whatsoever. And I TeamView into my PC from my phone to buy this ICO, to send $40,000 of Ethereum to some address, and I have no idea how I did it, right? I'm not looking at the road at all. I'm swerving all over the highway. And finally, I get to lunch with my mother, and I'm on my phone completely not paying attention to her whatsoever. Poor woman, right? The next day I wake up, I check my crypto wallet, the 40,000 was gone. The 40,000 was gone, it was stolen, hacked. Because I forgot to move the coins out of the exchange that I had it to, right? So it was this bullshit altcoin exchange that gets hacked all the time. And if you don't move those coins out and store them, you lose them, right? So I lost 40 grand, and in my head, I made 100,000 in Goldman, and I'm like, okay, so I'm up 60 grand, but that's all we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night and convince ourselves that we're not a complete piece of shit, right? So, and I'm thinking about this, I could have pulled over, right? I could have pulled over. I could have called my business partner and walked him through and gave him all the two-factor authentication codes and had him buy it, right? I could have called my mother and said, hey, you know what? Let's reschedule. But what did I choose to do? I chose to drive. I could have killed people on that road. I almost got into a couple of accidents. It was crazy. So I text while driving all the time, right? I text assuming I only need a fraction of my brain power to navigate wherever I'm going, right? It's similar to a drunk driver, right? He convinces themselves, right? They drive even better when they're drunk, and only until, and not before, right? Do they get in an accident, flip over the car, and almost kill themselves? Do they change their ways? It's a chaos theory, right? Something bad has to happen for you to wake up and change some of the habits that you've been wanting to change. All right? You know how I know everyone texts and drives? Because there wouldn't be signs everywhere telling people not to do it. And it's just like Instagram quotes telling people, how they should live their lives, right? You sit there and scroll through all these quotes. These are coming from people who aspire to do these things, but they can't. It's just something that they constantly have to remind themselves day in and day out to try to live these kinds of principles. So what's the only solution to texting and driving, right? What's the only viable solution to people who text and drive? And I know you guys all do it, all right? What's the only viable solution that solves it? Self-driving cars, right? It gives us an invasive solution, right? Because I can't trust myself to not pick up the phone and look at a text message while I drive. I can't trust myself to do that. How many other decisions do you make on a daily basis that you can't trust yourself to do time and time again, right? So I think the next generation, the next 5, 10 years, the next 50 years is going to be invasive solutions to come up with ideas on how we can make better decisions, but we take the control out of our own decision making. So let's talk about distraction, right, for a few ticks. Right? At one point in my trading career, after making a comfortable amount of money, I thought I deserved it, right? And somehow got into my mind that I didn't have to work for it. My strategy is all about bid and ask, right? All I do is look at a level 2 and time and sales all day. And I look at supply and demand, right? If I buy and sell based on supply and demand, that's it. And I adjust my positions as such. But if I'm not tapped into that time and sales or that level 2, then I'm distracted. You know what the worst thing was for me? I think it was like 2014, like YouTube started getting all kinds of content. You could watch everything. And I would watch the same videos over and over and over. I did the analytics, right? There was a video, a 30-minute video of a dude butchering a pig that I watched 225 fucking times while I was trading. While I was trading, I'd have a $100,000 position on, and I was watching a video of a dude butchering a pig, right? And you think about this, right? It's like when you're at home and Shawshank comes on, and you're watching it for 900 times. What value are you adding? What value are you adding by looking at these things over and over and over again, right? Instagram, social media, Twitter rants, I mean, you name it. All of this stuff is so distracting, and it affected my P&L. Let's see. Sports feeds, scrolling through Instagram, looking at girls, that was a big thing for me. And what's the solution for the distraction? What was my solution for the distraction? It was an invasive app that would literally lock me out of YouTube. It would lock me out of Instagram. It would lock me out of Twitter. It would lock me out of everything. And it would lock me out of my phone, too. I would even lock myself out of my PC and then go to my phone just to look at the same fucking video. What is that? What is that? It's a human condition. We have this disease, right? So, I kind of feel pathetic that I need them, but I need them. How many superstar athletes have the talent and never make it, right? How many have a stellar rookie year that you never hear from them? How many die under the pressure from it all, right? That show on HBO, Ballers, they got enough content for a lifetime. That show could be on forever. And you only hear about the big stories, right? You don't hear about the everyday ones. Everyday people just being held back because of their attachments, It could be even an attachment, or it could be even a disaster like cancer. My brother, right? He's even shorter than I am, right? He never leaves the house. Never leaves the house, right? Afraid to have conversations with people, and that's his hangout. I got another brother from an ex-relationship. He's 6'2", but he's got acne all over his face. Never leaves his house. Can't do it. Doesn't think people would respect him because he's got all this acne on his face. Nobody will ever know those souls exist. So you got millions of people out there just suffering from being human. And what's the solution? What's the solution to you becoming the human being you're supposed to be? Right? I mean, mental health profession in general. I mean, life coaches, behavioral science. I even tried a life coach. Can you believe that? I tried a trading coach, $5,000 a month. It was the worst decision I've ever made in my entire life. Because how do you expect somebody to understand what holds you back, right? The mental burdens that you have, the stuff that holds you back. I am an emotional guy. I mean, a dude would tell me to do breathing exercises, right? In the morning, eat right, go to the gym. Simple stuff that you already know. But he couldn't understand the burden I put on myself, right? I go through some deep emotional swings where I'm in the zone for a year trading or doing whatever. And then all of a sudden, for the next 2 years, I'm struggling to get back to that place that I know is so beneficial to me and allows me to achieve the things I want to achieve. Invasive technology, though, that analyzes your behavior during these high stressful situations and takes over your decision making. It's the only way to ensure your survival if you want to be a top performer and really achieve half the shit that goes on in your head. There's plenty of top performers out there, but not nearly as many as the bodies that are stacked up in the graveyards of people who've tried. But that's the only difference. Being 5% better, right? How do you be 10% better? Be 20% better. Enter the outliers, right? Mr. Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback that ever lived. That's right, I said it. He's got a bestseller out right now. Anybody buy it? And yet another book purporting to have the answer. Zach, I'm wrapping it up. Who else would have that book out anyway? Granted, the man is a god. But of course he'd hit the bestseller. But what is it that he does that the rest of us are trying so hard to achieve? Everyone in this room can achieve that level of greatness, that Tom Brady greatness. We all have a little Elon Musk in us. There's shit I know I can do that I was put on this earth to do, but I can't get there, right? There's a disconnect. You know what he does? You know what Tom Brady does? It's counterintuitive because we as shitty human beings, right, we hate repetition. But this is what the guy does. His love is on the practice. He lives in the repetition of it all, right? The repetition of eating the same shit every day. The repetition of running the same plays every day. The repetition of sleep patterns. The repetition of the repetition of the repetition. Now, someone tell me the definition of insanity, according to Inception, right? And that definition that was thrown out everywhere. What was that definition? That definition was doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting different results, right? So you're going to read all this shit. You're going to read psychology blogs. You're going to read all this stuff for trading. And in reality, unless you connect the dots, unless you find that place where you can devoid yourself of the emotions and all this stuff, but again, it's a difficult place to get to. My point is that I can't get there without some kind of invasive technology now, right? I might be there for 6 months. I might be there for a year, but I can't stay there. So how do we do it? Thanks.